Noel Nation, welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. We have our good friend with us, Tony Altimore, aka at TJ Altimore on X. You can find him. What's going on, Tony, man? We sure appreciate you joining the show. I actually found Tony, watching James's show. These guys, what's the segment you got, James? By the numbers with Tony Altimore?
Yeah, that was the last one that we did. Like, it was very, very, I tell them that's when I nerd out. We get like a lot of cool stuff. I mean, it's obvious, it's cool to have opinions, but when you have like data that backs your opinions, it just makes you feel smarter.
Facts. And TJ brought his whole pack of information over. He's like teaching me how to work StreamYard. Like, I thought I knew what I was doing here with this thing. He's taught me all kind of cool tricks. I just got through telling these guys, we made a post. Jen's not going to be with us tonight. She is down. She's got COVID and is really hurting with like a 102 fever. So prayers out to Jen. Hopefully she can get to feeling better very soon and we can see her back on the Renegade Rundown as soon as possible. She works so hard. She's like one of the most impressive people you ever meet. And the fact that she does these three podcasts every week on top of, we do double sometimes, and she goes out and does other podcasts. She's really just awesome. So we want her to get better and get back to us as fast as possible. But I wanted to bring, yes, sir. But I wanted to bring Tony on because, like we just got into, he's really smart. He's got a bunch of different graphics and stuff he brought with him to show kind of like where college football is heading. I think we see a lot of different things in the courts. We saw the Dartmouth case. Tony was just telling me about a USC case very similar to that Dartmouth case going on right now. We've got the ACC suit in progress. We just saw Florida State filed in North Carolina to get that thing dissolved. There's a cool little piece in there in the ACC's contract that we're going to want to touch on later. But just getting started, I think the biggest thing right now, we're going to a P2. That's what's happening. That's the biggest thing out of all these different suits. And the student athlete is on the way out, and in comes employee. I had a conversation with Chris even about this earlier, and he was really smart. He kind of pointed out to me, like, just because like it seems funny, it seems great, like we're all happy, it seems like the students are finally going to get paid. But when you go from student athlete to employee, there's a whole new can of worms there. It's not like it's necessarily the best thing for Mike Norvell and Florida State for this, student athlete to completely go away. Like when the NCAA leaves, it creates a power vacuum. It's like organized crime or any of these different things. So it'll be a lot of fun to talk about the conversation and just where we're at. I guess we could start there with this, the Dartmouth suit and what's going on with USC. What does this mean, man? Is this NCAA, are they done? Are they counting their days or what?
Well, there's a really interesting debate. And one of the first things is for people to understand, like Dartmouth basketball doesn't make a dime, right? Dartmouth basketball does nothing but lose money. So what's interesting is that this lawsuit is about their right to unionize given the control that Dartmouth has over their lives. Anybody who's ever dealt with HR people, where they talk about like, oh, is it an employee? Is it a contract? That kind of stuff. Like, that's what we're talking about here. Those lines of them telling you, this is when you go to the gym. This is when you eat. This is where you eat. This is what you eat. This is what you wear. These are the only kind of shoes you can have, all these things. You're an employee. And that's the thing. It's about control. So what we may see a split, within athletic departments, for example, of sports that want to go with an employee model and sports that don't want to have an employee model. And by the way, universities have employees do all sorts of things, right? Like teaching, like graduate students who are teaching assistants are employees of the school. Again, so it's not like this is like unprecedented, right? There's tons of, work study students are employees of the school. So like, it's not like this is, the only time this happens. So there's a real issue of control. So your question starts to be, let's pick on Florida State soccer, right? Like you guys just won the national championship in women's soccer, I think, right?
Yeah.
Do you want them to be employees or not? I don't know. Your lacrosse team, I don't think you have a men's lacrosse team, but do they need to be employees or not? Who knows? Swim team, these are types of things where you start to say, if we don't want them to be employees, then we're going to have to change how we manage them. Now, there's also lots of, there's people probably angrily typing at this. There's lots of implications with Title IX and employee stuff. We're sort of glossing over those a little bit. But the big question is about control. And, in a lot of ways, this is probably a good thing. Now, it may sort of get thrown out. We'll see with the Dartmouth case. There's a long way to go before it would be final. Probably like 3 years of process. But there's a very similar USC case going on right now that's actually more powerful. And USC, by the way, poor USC, they just looked foolish in court. Like, they were arguing the indefensible, right? I mean, it's like, I'm trying to think of a non-political case that, like, is that obvious that the person did it? Like, there's no question that USC's athletes are basically employees. So they look foolish. They knew they were going to look foolish. But that case is interesting because it's against 3 defendants. It's arguing that the athletes are jointly employed by USC, by the conference, and by the NCAA. Because one of the catches to the National Labor Relations Board is they only apply to private employers. And there's also all sorts of weird stuff with churches too. So the reason that you see schools targeted, like USC, we had Northwestern was targeted with this 10 years ago. It actually found the same thing, but then it later got thrown out for technicalities. And Dartmouth is their private schools, so they have jurisdiction. With Florida State, you are an agency of the state of Florida, and there's a lot of issues that go into being an employee of the state of Florida.
Oh yeah.
So there's lots of stuff there. If you think about Notre Dame, or Boston College, or Brigham Young's probably a better example. They're actually owned by the church. There's a lot of other stuff there. But the thing is if the USC decision comes down the same way, which it probably will, you never know, but probably will, it will then tie in conferences and the NCAA.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, as far as relating the Dartmouth and the USC issues to Florida State, I think the kind of tide out there has turned. I think, me and you talked about this the other day. It was 9-0 in the Supreme Court. Like, you had a complete across the board. And we don't, like you said, we don't get into politics too much, but when you can have the extreme opposites on both ends of the Supreme Court agree, you've got all these cases out here. It really feels like Daryl Jackson being suspended for the year, stuff like that. Hopefully it's the last time we ever see anything like that.
Yeah, because
back in 2023.
The NCAA has never been able to win these cases, ever. So going back to like 1950, here's what they do, is they just fight you until you give up. They use everything it's kind of like, this is not being political, but it's kind of like how like the Trump lawyers like appeal anything and everything constantly. That's what the NCAA does. They wear you down until, you're too old to play and it doesn't matter. So they try to wear people down. And they did that. So the first antitrust case against the NCAA was from the University of Pennsylvania, arguing that they should be able to control their own TV rights in 1951.
Wow.
Penn was like a huge power. They eventually dropped the suit because the NCAA bullied them, and then the other 7 schools agreed to form the formal Ivy League with them, and they kind of pulled out and they dropped their lawsuit. Oklahoma picked up that lawsuit. Oklahoma Regents took them to the Supreme Court in 1984 and won. Again, they are violating antitrust laws. There's no question they're violating antitrust laws, so they can't win, but they can fight you until you give up. But the problem is now, like you said, the tide has turned. And because the tide has turned, judges aren't letting them get away with their baloney. They're saying, okay, you know what? You want to have a 3-year lawsuit? Fine. But in the meantime, anybody can transfer anywhere they want, which you just saw with the seven states. They were like, no, you want to fight an NCAA? Okay, you can fight it. But you know what? You're now no longer you don't have the moral high ground. You've lost. And one of the catches with the Supreme Court case, and this is a big thing. This is a big thing for judges, is that Justice Kavanaugh, no paragon of workers' rights here, but Justice Kavanaugh came out and said that they are so flagrantly in violation of antitrust laws that the Supreme Court 9-0 could only give them what was in that case. That it was about that case. But if other people wanted to bring more things to the Supreme Court, they would be happy to slam them on antitrust laws again on whatever. And so with that decision, now these federal judges are waving that around and saying, hey, here you are again, old friend. And there's a huge antitrust case right now against the NCAA in California. It's before the senior judge for the Ninth Circuit, right? This is no like Homer. This is the senior judge of the Ninth Circuit. And she was also the judge on the O'Bannon case that slammed them. She knows their game. She's already busted them once, and she's going to bust them again.
I love it, man.
What a lot of this stuff is it's always been, I think people are now no longer being able to harbor to ignorant arguments that they've had for so long. I think it kind of goes down to like when people think about medical marijuana or marijuana. I remember in the state of Florida, it's gone on many ballots, and the first it'll go, I think it was like the first time it was 60-40 against even medical marijuana in the state of Florida. And one of the guys, John Morgan, one of the biggest law firms in America, his joke was, we just need a couple more people to unalive. And then the people who really care will vote in favor. And what happened was, I believe, two election cycles later, it went away. It became legal unanimously. And what's happened is even the person who the person who basically made the rules and the NCAA as strong as it is now, he basically spent his entire life after he stepped down from the NCAA detracting the NCAA and letting people know that you can't do this. So Tony brought up the best point, and what's wild is the arguments used to be, well, if you pay athletes, then they're going to have to pay taxes. And I'm like, okay.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. One, that's more money.
The government is fine with that.
Yeah. But
they need to learn too.
At 18 to 22, like, okay, you don't want us to enter in the workforce. What if I went to the military? I would have to do this. What about this? Then it became the trade-off is you're getting your education paid for. And again, that showed a lot of people have ignorance of what an actual scholarship is. A scholarship is nothing more than the total grant and aid that a university can give any student. So while I'm on full football scholarship, my football scholarship can be given to a person who is really, really good at math. So the same 60,000 or whatever they said that I was giving my scholarship was worth, that math student could get 60,000 and be free to do all of the different things that they wanted. Now, here's where it became a kicker and why Antonio brought up, they were able to bully. There was nobody unselfish enough to not take on a case that they weren't sure was going to take years until the O'Bannon case came around. And then you saw how much money was there to be made if you can ride it out. So attorneys started saying, you know what, I'll ride this pro bono knowing that they're going to have to end up paying me. And I know I'm going to probably get a percentage of a large piece of pie. And the NCAA can't fight on multiple fronts. But you can't dictate what I wear. You can't dictate that, not just what I wear, not just to like slacks, shoes, polo shirt, to the brand. Like that's literally what that's an employment contract. That's a part of employment. You dictate, you give me a uniform to wear. I must wear my uniform to work. If I don't wear that uniform to work, then I'm in trouble. I must report at this time. When it's a scholarship, and scholarships guidelines are nothing more than maybe you can have some community service that's added to it. But basically, I make certain grades and I keep my scholarship. Almost every other scholarship that's in a college basically states that you need to maintain a 3.0 or 4.0 or higher GPA. And it's the scholarship money and the distribution to student athletes is different. Now, where it gets really weird, it's all of the Title IX stuff and the different things of that nature. But I would argue that it's not as weird as what people think, because one of the arguments that never gets brought up with Title IX is how the women's soccer coach at Florida State basically makes what the taxes are for the football coach at Florida State. Like nobody ever brings those up. So I think it actually may almost make more parity in Title IX than what people think, because it's just different departments. HR gets paid more than the male department. A lot of other different things like that. But now the only thing that stinks for the student athlete is I prefer the NIL way, because that's 1099, but that's just more me on the taxes front. If you become a W-2 employee, there are more restrictions, but there's also more benefits. You have workman's comp, which would be detrimental to schools because imagine a guy like me having shoulder surgery or jaw surgery or hand surgery is still having some of those after effects some years later to those different things that we have with that. But those are
remember too, a lot of these schools own their own healthcare systems. So actually, they can pay for that. They can take care of that stuff better than anybody else.
They could, and you're 100% right. And now I just thought about that. And then even think about what Florida State is doing now, bringing more. It's the only thing the beautiful thing about America, and America has is great country. Since you have to be political, this isn't political. I love America. But the coolest thing about America is America has never done the right thing for the right thing. It literally has
capitalism, baby.
It's fiscally driven, and you have to go out there. Nothing has ever changed unless somebody is willing to fight. And now you've got guys willing to fight. They're going out here and they're literally holding you. You told me as a child that I am in a capitalistic society, and you don't want me to participate in capitalism. That is basically the crux of the argument across the board. And now what they're doing is they're attacking the NCAA on multiple fronts, on everything. And I think one person brought in the comments, I'm happy for it because it means there's another, even if it's only $5,000 like my NCAA video game check, that means there's another check coming to me because they're suing the networks, they're suing the schools because they know that there's money there that the student athlete should have got paid in back pay, and I'm all for it. I'm salute to these kids. I'm mad I didn't have NIL, but I'm not hating on them for getting it.
Well, and I'll give you one other thing too that's an interesting argument is people talk about the value of education because it's hugely valuable. You get to go to school for free, but here's two other pieces. First of all, so do all university employees. One of the reasons that people go and work for the school, which by the way is actually why the schools typically pay a lower salary than like the economic marketplace, is they attract people. The people in HR are there to like also get their masters. Like they go to the school, so they go to the school for free. And the other thing, by the way, is and this is going to sound bad, but like if you think about it truly from a cost accounting standpoint, when I'm in economics class. And the kid next to me is on the baseball team and he's on a scholarship. They're billing the athletic department for him to be in that class. But like, there's no more cost for that seat. Like if he's there or not, that seat is there. He can be in it learning or not. Again, lots of cost accounting stuff. I have a degree in this stuff. So, I mean, we could talk about this all night, but the truth is there's not extra cost. And employees get that too. So it's saying the athletes they're still going to get an education. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. As they should, just like all other school employees get that opportunity.
Yeah, it's a self-contained system. And it kind of goes back to what I was joking about in the pre-show. Like, it's kind of like the mob, how it's been run. It's like, well, we know you could do this and do that, but you've got our protection. You're a student athlete. You don't have to worry about agents. You just get your education and all these things. And I don't think people realize the kind of money and things that go into academics, like you're talking about, how the numbers and the heads and how it all works out in the end. So we can go through some of those numbers that you had loaded up. I can put it up on the screen. But yeah, the money, like people, they think there's this common thing like, oh, they're greedy. These kids, they're getting a free education. They shouldn't, be pushing for this stuff. But really, when you look at it at the end of the day, like that argument, it's just so far gone, especially when it comes to college football and how much money these guys make and like research and the fact of them being a school, a good, educational school brings in money, etc. And who would you rather want be a student? A Heisman winning quarterback? Like that is good for Florida State for his butt to be in that seat. Like regardless of what you want to say, you're paying for his education. He's like, there's 100,000 kids that year that are applying because Jameis Winston was there, or Johnny Manziel, or whoever else you want to say.
Absolutely. And here's an example. We were talking about that impact of the way they overbill the athletic department for scholarships. So this is FY22 data, which is the most recent year that we have for everybody. So the FY23 stuff is coming out right now, but it's not standardized. This is FY22. This is how much every athletic department made or lost, not counting their subsidies from the school. So you see here, for example, some of them, a lot of them lost money, right? Because they're having to subsidize, they're having to pay for their sports, which is fine, right? Because you're paying because you want to have a women's softball team and a men's lacrosse team or whatever. But a lot of them are losing money. Remember how I said they overcharged the school for the athletes?
Right.
Well, if you factor that in, now look at how many of them are losing money.
Wow. So just that much, you're talking about 85 scholarships for football, however many for, that it's literally the scholarship money that is putting us in the red. Like that's really unbelievable.
You're paying that to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's a reason you do it, right? And just like
James you got to.
Well, first of all, there's just like cost accounting, because that's just like what accounting does. Accounting can be goofy sometimes. But here's the other thing is that it's easy to raise money for a scholarship quarterback, right? I saw a guy the other day from Cal who sponsors the scholarship for Fernando Mendoza, their quarterback. Picture of him with Fernando. Yay. Well, when Fernando sits in Econ 101, or when Tate Rodemaker's gone, who's your backup quarterback now?
Probably Brock Glenn or Luke.
All right, so when Brock Glenn sits in Econ 101, he might be sitting next to somebody who's on a full ride academic scholarship. Well, the econ department is getting that money from the athletic department for Brock and probably giving it to the other kid to pay for it. So there's kind of a whole cycle in there. And there's another huge element that nobody talks about walk-ons. Walk-ons are a huge revenue source for all of these schools, because what happens for a lot, especially schools with high tuition, and schools that have like cheaper sports, so more throughout Division I and then all Division II and Division III. But what you see at a lot of these schools, for example, say baseball has 11 scholarships or 12 scholarships or something. They probably have 45 guys on the team. 34 of them are paying full price. And at a lot of those schools, those kids will pay for the whole baseball team. Track teams, they pay for themselves. Now, not necessarily at a Florida State, right? Because you guys are sort of at that high end and you're doing all kinds of stuff. But at most schools, remember that these sports pay for themselves through walk-ons. Most schools, most teams. Again, not necessarily this list, but on this list, absolutely.
Another thing from that previous chart.
By the way, take a look at here. The G5s all lose.
Mm-hmm. Is it the same as far as the education? On the flip?
Thing. The thing about the G5s is they just don't have revenue.
Yeah.
And they don't have big donors. They don't get media revenue. They don't have big donors. And then they have 10,000 people in the stands, not 80. And I mean, if you think about it, depending on ticket pricing and merchandising sales and concessions and parking and how much all that, if you think about it, you can roughly say, this is rough, but you can say about 10,000 seats turns into about $8 million of revenue. It's kind of rough, right? So if you have 20,000 more people in your stands, that's $16 million just that you have profit. So that's why you look at UCLA, like their athletics are bad. Well, because their stadium's empty.
Absolutely.
If they put 40 more thousand people in, they'd be great. So you guys sell out your stadium, and that's really important because that's just money for the athletic department.
Absolutely. And one thing I took away from those that earliest slide, it just goes to show how important it is to be in the SEC or the Big Ten with this thing going forward, especially with the ACC on the verge of collapse, the NCAA on the verge of collapse. I think a lot of people are worried. I've seen some different questions in the chat, and James mentioned it earlier about the NIL model. With all these changes, with it possibly going to employees, how could you see that affecting these employees? Is it going to become where kids, it's not even about going to school anymore, they're just employees. They just come to play ball and they don't even pretend that anymore. You know, or the employee model, like my biggest thing, the reason I thought the employee model was good is that you'd be able to really have a pay for play or like something on paper that the kids could really do to own up to.
Like
You know,
Pay for work.
George, nobody, I'm not saying this to like belittle somebody, but I'm saying this with the utmost respect I can give into that. Nobody, you guys don't really care that we're going there for school. Like you don't care.
right?
And I'm not saying that that doesn't make you a bad person that you don't care. Because if you did, the stadium would be packed for the teams that have the highest graduation and the highest GPAs. If it were truly about the education, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, those schools would consistently be the best schools. I can tell you right now, as a guy who's very intelligent, I believe, at certain times, graduated in 3 years. Doesn't make me smart, makes me efficient. I only use my history degree when I'm watching Jeopardy or I'm playing some kind of games. I am not a teacher. Hell, I think the statistic was when I was coming out, 75% of those who have an undergraduate degree are working in a field that has absolutely nothing to do with their undergraduate degree. The way the academic system in America in of itself is set up is not conducive. So like again, that's another argument for another day about certain things. What we care about and why we like the school is because these gladiators came in and they made us like it. They wear our colors. We have pride. We cheer for them. We chant. They do athletic feats that we wish we could do ourselves. And I say that as me as well. We do not care if that person passed baby bio. We do not, because if we did, and we truly, then we would really be more for this. And here's the reason why. A guy like me who came to college, I could have gone to college for free, but that's because I grew up poor and because I got the full Pell Grant. If we cared about that, we would applaud capitalism for the way that it works, because we would not want that young man going with a heavy heart, knowing that his mother has an eviction notice, something that I have had to play through. Knowing that they got we call it the red letter card with because when you haven't paid your utilities on time, you get a red letter card that says you got 7 days to pay by this date, or we're going to cut your stuff off. There are guys who are really, and if you don't believe it, go check out the Dope Boy stories that I've been doing with my teammates. It's full of guys talking about how we came up in the different things and why. So, like, again, the purpose of college, though, is you're coming in, you're getting experience, you're learning life lessons. The beautiful thing about being an elite athlete, the 2% of all of all athletes out of high school go to college. I want you to understand, this is the part I don't think people quite grasp, how few, and then because I was talking about it with a pro, do you realize there's only 30,000, a little bit more now, but before that, there was only 30,000 people who have ever worn an NFL uniform in the history of the NFL. Do you know how few people that is? So forget that. So there's 2% of all student athletes in high school will get an opportunity to play college on any level. Imagine being in the top 2% of your field and somebody saying that's only worth a scholarship. Man, if you were the top 2% of chutes and ladders players, you would probably be a millionaire. If you're the top 2% of all dentists, you would be one of the richest men in the world. If you're the top 2% of any field, that's the American dream. That's what you should go to college for. You should go to college so that you can become the best of the best. And what better way to give you training than while doing it at school? That is more replicable, which is more not reputable, more it's better than going and getting a fake degree. Even if they wanted to tell you that, like, it's way better than getting it. Because I'll tell you this, I had Myra Roll. I know Myra Roll. I hosted Myra. Great guy. Doctor. Incredibly smart. David Castillo. Incredibly smart. I forgot. He's one of the top skin cancer doctors. He was a linebacker in the 80s for Florida State. Tons of brilliant people have come through Florida State and played football, right? And played sports. But if you want to know what the degree is at the school that means absolutely nothing, go look at Seminoles.com or your favorite school and look at mine was during my time was social science interdisciplinary. Basically, that meant that we just went to class. And you have to pick an emphasis. So you have to pick econ. So I picked, mine was emphasis in history with a minor in econ. And I mean, it's just, and the only reason I took macro economics in high school, and I only had to take one more in college to get me a minor. I love history, so I took a bunch of history classes. You'll see that. You'll see maybe international affairs, which is another degree that's just BS. It just took some classes, and again, you're getting a degree because you have to get a degree.
As a former CIA officer, I object to that. International affairs has value.
I apologize.
Hold on now. I'm learning something here now. Former CIA officer.
I'm just telling you, at Florida State, Florida State sports management. Sports management isn't a BS degree at Florida State because it's you have to apply for it. So meaning you have to have a high enough GPA to be able to get accepted in it, which means you have to at least make the minimum as a student athlete. So you had to get a 2.75 was the minimum to be able to get a sports management degree. A lot of schools don't have. Again, that's another thing. Social science interdisciplinary is a degree where you don't have to have a minimum. They have to accept you if you have the credits. So again, go look, and most of them is like, oh, you got enough credits, boom, boom, boom. And because you have to be eligible. It means you have to have completion toward progress, PTG, progress toward graduation. You can't have PTG if you're not in your major by your junior year. You won't have progress toward graduation because you're not making any progress. They have to put you in a program which you can graduate in order to get you PTG, which helps them not be suspended. So again, it's a lot of things that I think people, and I'm not, again, I say it, you don't care just because that's the only way I know how to talk. It doesn't mean you're mean or anything. It just means you don't even know what it takes to graduate as a student athlete. So you can't care because you don't have all the information.
Well, and one of the other things too that I feel like a lot of fans don't appreciate about Florida State, and we were talking about this where you guys fit in the world. Florida State is now the number 53 school in the country.
Academically. Unreal.
Number 53. That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
Florida State is a great school, and people don't appreciate that. I mean, look at where you guys are. You guys are middle of the ACC. You'd be the number one school by half in the Big 12. Cut the next Big 12 school in half to get to you, ranking wise.
And coming from where we were just 20 years ago, that's pretty amazing stuff. To come in the ACC and climb that ladder and to be on the road for all those AAU grants and everything else. I think it just goes to show, and I like that you have up here where we would be in the SEC or the Big Ten. I guess that's where we can go, with everything going on. Obviously, we're trying to get out of the ACC. How different would it look for Florida State when it comes to money from academics and these different things if and when we get over into the Big Ten?
So the Big Ten has a lot of things that can help you. The Big Ten very much believes in the integration of its schools academically. So there are a lot of things that can help you. Now, you also, being in the ACC, that has helped you enormously. So, I mean, there are real benefits to the Big Ten. There's also benefits to the SEC. I mean, the thing about the SEC, a good friend of mine from Alabama likes to joke. And he always tells me, he goes, shh, don't tell our dumb fans how smart our kids actually are.
Right.
Because look at the SEC. Those are great schools too. The SEC is all state flagship schools. So having Florida State among them, you guys recently have the preeminent, whatever they call it, preeminent designation that the state has given you together with USF and UF. You guys are a major important institution nationally. Just you are. And so, I think that one of the issues too that you'll hear a lot of people say is you'll hear people fans who don't really know what's going on. We'll talk about the Big Ten's academics because the Big Ten has very serious academic standards. But what people don't realize is you already clear them. It's sort of like almost like a hurdle. Do you clear the hurdle? Yeah, you're the number 53 school in the country. You're higher ranked in Michigan State, Penn State, Indiana, Iowa, Oregon, and Nebraska. Yeah, you meet the Big Ten standards. And so then you think about like football. Do you meet the Big Ten standards in football? Yes. I mean, obviously. Yeah. Next. So you think about would this be a good school for there? I think absolutely. I think that's pretty clear. Now, lots of things go in, right? Like there's lots of schools that would be good, but I think that you guys are there. I also think that you're going to have to settle this ACC thing because I don't think you can really go back. They need to just work it out. I feel like you have burned those bridges. But part of the other thing too is like I think overall for the sport is better served. Like I think you guys should like hate on the ACC a little less because the sport is better served with the ACC being decently strong and the Big 12 being decently strong, and it would have been better served with the Pac-12 staying decently strong because if you can get into one of these other two conferences, regardless, you're better off being in that upper club and still having the other group below you.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see happening, eventually you're going to a Power 2, but I think a lot of these other schools will come in. I think the Big Ten and the SEC will still add several, but that takes us, I guess, to the kind of next thing I want to talk about while we have about another 20 minutes left here with Tony before he's got a hard out at, or 15 minutes before he has a hard out at 8. We're all in. Me, James, Chris, our whole bunch. We've been talking about we want FSU into the Big Ten. That's what we think is going to happen. But like you said, once Florida State, maybe a Clemson goes to the Big Ten, maybe a UNC, another team goes to the SEC, the Pac-12 is already crumbled. The Big 12 is already kind of a G5 conference with Oklahoma and Texas gone. I mean, I think it just goes to the importance and what could possibly, how are we going to fill the vacuum of the NCAA? That's the big question. Is this alliance that the SEC and the Big Ten going to be enough, or who's going to be able to step in? Is it the Supreme Court? How do y'all think this thing plays out in the end? Because I just, like you said, like it's great to talk about getting rid of the ACC. It's great to talk about getting rid of the NCAA, but what could happen next? Is it one of these things where, they make it sound like it's so difficult and impossible to do, but really these universities could get together, no problem. It seems super easy to me. It seems like AFC, NFC, boom, there you go. And then you have your G7 conferences or whatever the case may be. But I know it's a lot more complicated than that.
Part of your problem is that there's a lot that the NCAA does. It's a huge organization that does a lot of things. So if you think about it, you want to get rid of it. And I'll tell you, having been around like the stand-up of the Department of Homeland Security and the Director of National Intelligence Office, like the standing up of huge organizations is really hard, even once you have your strategy, governance, goals, and all that done. So they don't have that. These people are not aligned. You're talking about very like disparate opinions across, like putting it together a new organization, just the putting together the HR structure of like the people and the HR design of like a new organization would be almost impossible. Like in the short term, putting together the IT requirements, right? Like you got to have like an IT developer build programs for you to like report all your statistics into. Like, I mean, that just sounds like a silly little thing, right? But like it has to be done if you're going to create so I don't think creating a new organization is what they want to do. Now, if they have to do it, they will. But I don't think they want to. I think they want to create a solution that, first of all, fixes these legal problems. That's the big thing the Big Ten and the SEC have said, is it's time to solve the problems, not kick the can down the road, not beg Congress. It's time to solve the problems. And so I think they're going to come up with proposals that solve those problems. But at the same time, I think they want to avoid having to create a new organization.
It's like a federal state thing. James, what do you think? What's the solution here? Is there some way, like, is there any way the NCAA will ever get some young leader who's willing in there to just completely, change it and really work with these guys? Can you just drop it to the universities and let it operate on more of a state type level to where the NCAA just acts as, you know, a mediator between the conferences?
Just real quick, remember though, the NCAA's, it's not a, not to interrupt, sorry, just real quick, it's not a monolith, right? The NCAA is composed of its schools. It's not like an evil empire. It is its own schools. So they can change what they want. They just have to do it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Nah, I think the problem is that one is we're trying to regulate two sports that are really that just make too much money. That literally have outperformed what the current construct is for them. And that's why you kind of already see the Big Ten and the SEC creating their de facto council, or if you will, where they're going to talk and try to give their own benefits. I mean, it's something that I've been speaking on since I played. There may be 50 schools on a football level that could really compete year in and year out, but that should be in it. And then the rest of them doesn't mean that you get away from it. It just means that it'll look different. And that's kind of what the P2 is shifting towards. And I think with the NCAA, got folded or was, moved, then I think that it would be. It's the same thing I say about HBCUs. I always joke and say HBCUs, the NCAA serves absolutely zero purpose for historically black colleges and universities. It does absolutely nothing for them. But also to that point, Tony, it really doesn't do much for G5s in general. It really only serves the purpose of the larger institutions that would make money without it. And I think for us to try to continue to look at student athletes under the guise of the NCAA, that's one problem that's gotten us. That's really the main problem that's gotten us to right here. You can no longer. It stopped being amateur when you started paying coaches over $2 million a year. I would even say $1 million, but it definitely, we can at least admit that it stopped being amateur when you are educating these guys and allowing them this sounds bad, but hear me with it. Allowing them to read allowing them to read and see on ESPN $1 billion split between all these schools. You cannot do these things and then tell these people, oh, be okay right here. We're going to make this 1 billion over here, but you be fine here. It's just not, it's not American. And so it's going to fall. And the problem is the NCAA did not adjust. You did not adapt. And that's as American as apple pie. You either will adapt or you will fade away. You will adapt or you will die. And right now, they're going the way of the dinosaurs. They're not adapting. And instead, they're buried. They're trying to dig in their heels for something that's going to eventually overrun them and overpower them. And something else will take face. Something else will come back in. And again, the SEC, the Big Ten are already trying to set those situations up to where they can be able to be fine when it happens. In my opinion, I would just go ahead and tell, if I were the NCAA, I would say, here's what we're going to do. We are going to release governance to the SEC and the Big Ten. Do with it what you will. Create what you want to. This right here, that alone will take them away from antitrust, because you are willingly breaking up your monopoly. We will take care of. Go ahead.
Well, as I say, the other thing that they can do is just separate and let them either run the Division I council or split the Division I council into two. And that was part of one of the things that Charlie Baker had suggested. Because again, remember, like, they govern themselves. So they can say, you know what, we're going to create our own, division FBSA, whatever, FBS plus, and govern it ourselves. And they can do that. Because then they could still, and it could be a separate piece of the Division I council. There's a lot of solutions that they can do because, again, it's not a monolith. It's not like a government above them. It is them. I mean, Greg Sankey's on the Division I council.
One quick comparison before you finish. I know you've only got about 7 minutes left, but I like doing these comparisons. it seems like to me, like the NCAA, the way you're explaining it, and with the knowledge I have of it, seems like for years and years and years, these colleges use the NCAA as like the bad mom or the bad dad. Like, oh, we wouldn't mind if you signed autographs, but the NCAA. Oh, well, we wouldn't mind if you transferred but the NCAA says you can't have an agent. Seems to me like it's that kind of a situation, like you said, with it not being a monolith, and that's
100%
kind of
right.
why the NCAA has said, "Oh, whatever, do whatever you want." Oh, now you're complaining to us? Okay, well, Daryl Jackson and Tez Walker are suspended. Oh,
Yeah.
well, we'll
this will get
give
transferred.
this one a waiver, but we're pissed at FSU, so he doesn't get his waiver. And guess what? We'll do it away with it anyways. Like
Well,
it's
not only
so.
that, but remember with transfers, for example, the schools want to make it as hard as possible for you to transfer out of their school.
Oh yeah.
But they want to make it as easy as possible for you to transfer into their school, which
crazy.
is where you have like this ludicrous hypocrisy. Because
And
again,
how does that work if you split them? Like if you have a P2, that's another thing I've heard people being concerned. I want to hear what both y'all think about that, because like if you split them and the Big Ten and the SEC says, you know what, we're going back to one-time transfer rule. You can only transfer once. But we've seen how important it is to take these talents and how much it's changed football for somebody to be able to go from FCS to G5 to P5, literally go 3-4 different places and move up and win a Heisman by his senior year. So I don't think a lot of people think that the Alliance will nip that in the bud, but I don't think that's going to happen, because they would have to be closing off a whole giant sector of talent that they're not going to be willing to do. I think relegation is more likely.
Well, one of the way that you solve that, right, is collective bargaining. This is the thing. This is where we talked about employees, unionize, whatever. You negotiate it out and you say, okay, you know what? You're going to get paid, but here are the rules. And they agree to those rules. That's the thing, is they're not letting the athletes make these decisions. And so if they don't agree to the rules, then you can't restrict them. That's the antitrust piece. You can't just unilaterally decide, oh, we think this is how we're going to do transferring. No, just like the pros, right? Like they can't just decide they're going to trade players. That's part of the collective bargaining agreement, how that process works. So it's the same thing. If they want to have transfer rules, okay, but the players have to agree to them, and that's part of the collective bargaining. Again, now that's over. I know there's going to be angry lawyers typing in the comments. There's a little more complexity to that, but
we're having a hypothetical conversation, guys. Don't we're just speaking about where this thing's going. Nobody knows till it happens in the court and stuff, but it has been a lot of fun talking to you. I know you've got a heart out here in a few minutes. Was there anything in particular that you were wanting to get out get off your chest, or anything you wanting to talk about in particular?
I would just say for Florida State, guys, remember, you're better off with the ACC continuing to exist. Like the best, again, for USC and UCLA, the best thing for them would have been for the Pac-12 to continue to exist. Well, they went to the Big Ten. USC fans are like, God, Oregon's back. Just when we thought they were gone. So for you guys, the best thing in the world for you would be for you to go to the Big Ten or the SEC and have everybody else stay happy in the ACC. Like that's, for Florida State's standpoint, that's really the best thing. So don't hope for their death. Just hope that you get out.
Hope we can laugh at them from afar. Laugh at Miami stuck over there.
No, seriously. I mean, if you could go to the SEC or the Big Ten and leave Miami behind, is there anything better for you than that?
Sounds pretty good to me, Tony.
Hey, thanks, guys. This was fun.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. We'll definitely get you in here again, and maybe I can join you guys on the DenMediaGroup. It'll be a lot of fun, man. Thanks, Tony.
We'd love it. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
And James, I'm not sure how much time you've got left. I will throw the number up there. If anybody has any questions really quick, we can get into some, just kind of talk the timeline, have a little fun with the comments. Again, Jen is out with COVID. She's got like 102 fever, so everybody say a prayer for her. She dropped in here while we were talking and said hello. She misses everybody. She wishes she could be with us, but yeah, Jen, just get better. We all love you and hope you can get healthy soon. But anyways, what's up, James? You got a few more minutes to kick it?
Yeah, I got a few more minutes, and I got to get ready to go try to find some chow. And then it's crazy being on the West Coast. Like, it's only 5 o'clock here. And
man, 5 o'clock.
It's so much more I can accomplish. Like, you can actually just get your day started over here. So
You still got a good another 2 hours of daylight over there, man.
Yeah, it's bright outside still. But I got to catch up and make sure I check on my boys, man. Feel bad for Jen having COVID. I always tell people, like, COVID almost took me out. Like, good friend of mine actually died. We both went in at the same time. He didn't come out.
Dang.
And I remember even the doctor was like, I think I was one of the few people who actually made it out that weekend. Well, it took me longer than a weekend, but I was there 10 days. Luckily, she just got something that just keeps her at home, and hopefully she recovers really, really good. You don't want that stuff to get in your chest, man. That pneumonia is an MFer, man. That's what really took me down. So, best weight loss program that I've ever been on, though.
A tough one.
Dropped 50 pounds in 10 days, man. I would take the 50 pounds in 10 days, but not the other shit that came with it, though.
Yeah, no doubt. That's the key, is to stay on top of it. Because if you get bad, like you said, if that stuff gets in your chest and you've got to go in the hospital, it can be bad. So we're hoping she has that lighter kind of just like a flu deal. But especially in the earlier on, before we got through all the different mutations, it was really, really scary. So let's hope that Jen gets better very soon and will be with us here soon. I don't have anything to announce yet. We have some really cool shows, though, with some former players and stuff lined up. So look forward to some fun shows with me and Jen again next week. And James, if you haven't been watching the DenMediaGroup, he's had Brian McFadden on, Andre Smith. Who all of you had on, man? You've had like 5 or 6 different interviews. I know you got to have Kyle Juszczyk on your program. All kind of cool stuff over there at Radio Row.
Yeah, we've had Juice. We've had I got Bruce Buffer.
Yeah, that's what it was, man. That's freaking awesome.
That's going to be up earlier. Sheena was able to interview Max Crosby. We got Steve Wiltz. We got a couple really good ones that we're going to just start uploading here soon, and trying to put stuff out. It's very difficult doing a show. Having to host it, having to get content to be able to talk about and be at the Super Bowl. Excuse me. But it's nonetheless it's fun. We're just posting a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Again, I always tell people, my guy, shout out to my guy Steve. Can I brag about somebody real quick?
Steve the Stilt,
man. Steve the Stilt is so awesome. He came at the last minute, and it's one of those things where be prepared. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And Steve, I gave him a call. I said, man, you want to come to the Super Bowl? You want to cover the Super Bowl? And he was just like, yeah. And he came on, and oh man, I was, bro, like Sheena was with Doc, and they got separated. That's why I didn't get a chance to go see Ross, man. I went in a different direction last night, and I also went to sleep. I was tired, man. But we'll be out tonight. We're gonna be outside tonight. If I'm not outside with them, I'm going to see 2 Chainz tonight. But
okay.
And it's so much stuff to do around here, man. It's crazy. But I try to tell people, be affiliated with the program, be all in, and you never know what you're going to be able to do.
You could be there with James if you were all in, man. You could have been there.
Steve got to go to the gifting suite. We got some cologne. We got some fire ass cologne that ain't even in America yet. That's over in Europe. We got all kinds of other different things. We got a chance again. You get a chance to meet all of these different people. You may have to work, may have to carry a bag every now and then, but you get all the other shit. So. But it's cool. Outside of, like I said, it's dope. It's just a lot. This is my 4th Super Bowl, I think, and I'm still trying to get used to the rigor. But it's dope, man. It's something that is really, really cool.
Once a year, man. It's awesome, man.
And I'll be at the combine at the end of the month, so kind of something similar but different. Like
you and Chris will both be at the combine, right?
Yeah. I think so. Hopefully, if he's there, I didn't know. But anybody?
Okay. Well, I hope I wasn't breaking no news. I don't think that's maybe just a brain fart. But y'all did talk. Another thing that I kind of Tour Duty's been going on I know you guys talked about it a little bit. I've heard a little bit here and there, but I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to talk on. So while I've got you right here, what can you say about tour duty? Who's kind of stuck out from you from the part you got to witness and can speak on? Because I can't. I'm fiending so bad. I know the audience is. We cannot wait for spring practice to get here. I believe it's March 6th. But any little nuggets we can talk about, I'm sure people would love to hear.
I think that's the big thing is that we just have to like take things with a grain of salt. They're working hard. That's the most important thing to know. Is like who's like kicking ass in shorts is not necessarily going to dictate how well of a season we're going to have. But the key point in all of it is that the guys are really, really working hard to get themselves in a position to recreate the success that they've had over the past 2 seasons. One of the things about the standard being the standard is competing for championships. So you can't compete for a national championship until you've at least gotten to your conference level, or the ACC championship, which automatically guarantees you a berth in the college football invitational. So that's right now. That's what they're working hard on to make sure that they're doing what's necessary to beat the teams that are on their schedule, so that they're going to be in the best position to be able to continue to push the program forward. Now, somebody beating somebody in a foot race on a random Friday doesn't mean that person's any better, because at the end of the day, this is still a very violent game. Now, this is more of the mental aspect of it, but you still have to add the physical to the mental. And I think that's where we're going to really start to see some of these things. But a lot of these guys that are standing out, come on, we already knew about these guys. Our running back Cam is showing out. Cam's doing this thing. Of course he's going to do his thing. Kid's built like he was born in the civil rights era, man. Like,
Man,
the kid's just ready to go, man. I love it.
he's different.
Love everything about Cam. Get his size is a little bit bigger, but if he's talked to Storms, one thing I do is I trust Storms. And if Storm says he wants them at 215 and they're going to work their way back down, then that's going to be what they do. Marvin Jones Jr., he knows what it's like. He's the son of a legend. So, of course I expect they expect him to come in. Also, him coming from a Georgia, a program where you've won a national championship. You've seen what his performance is. Like, you coming in and you're bringing in a championship environment and mentality. So, a lot of these guys, again, I will not take my opinion of the university and what the school is doing based off of this. I'm going to wait until I get to see them boys after I get back from the combine, and I'll tell you guys what I've been saying the last few years. If I think the practice is dope, I'm going to tell you, man, that was a good practice. If I think the practice stinks, I'm going to be like, man, you know what? Nah, I ain't like that. But I always go to the first shorts practice, and I always go to the first padded practice. So we'll see how both of those go, and then we'll go from there.
I've based a lot of my opinions and things the past 2 years off of what Big Game James told me about that first practice in shorts and then the first padded practices. And there's no doubt, like, literally, I can't remember exactly your wording was for 22, but it was like, watch out. These boys are different. And then last year it was just, okay, they ready. And so I can't wait to hear what you've got to say or how it goes for the first one this year. But I'm really, really excited. Like you said, those guys, Marvin Jones Jr., Sean Murphy, Little Jr., a lot of these guys that have come in here, they are as advertised and they really fit in. You've got to see a lot of these guys speak for the first time this week. Looks like Florida State, I don't know what they did. They upgraded into some 4K Ultra HD, but these interviews that they're getting, the ones they've had from all the new guys, Luke, Cam, it's like movie quality stuff. And these kids, it seems like they're seniors up there talking. All the things they're saying, and some of the Bama players to kind of, to hear the same exact thing from these Bama players that we've heard from everybody else coming here about tour duty, about Coach Storms, about Coach Norvell, and just, how awesome the program is, how much harder it is than anything they've ever done. It really gives you hope. Like, just come on, baby. I just can't wait to see what they look like. I really, truly believe this is the most talented team we've had by far. It's really kind of getting undersold. Obviously not by us. We're all pretty biased. I just think it's really undersold, especially when you look at the different positions like defensive end. Like Lincoln Riley out in California, he gets credit. Like, nobody right now is saying, oh, what's going to be the deal with quarterback out there? Is Lincoln Riley going to be able to get it together? Is he going to find somebody that's going to be able to throw? for USC this year. But that's what we hear every offseason about Adam Fuller and John Papuchis, about their defensive ends. But what have we seen? I saw 2021, one of the most dominant players in all the game in Jermaine Johnson. I saw 22, Jared Verse and Pat Payton started to take another step. And then I saw 2023. You know, I mean, what are you going to say about that 23 defensive line? So will it be somewhere between 2022 and 23? Maybe. But between Tomiwa Durajaye, Siono Lolohea, and Marvin Jones Jr., I'm just saying, watch out. There's a first-team All-ACC player there, and across the board, I know I've mentioned Bless Harris transferring out and like kind of the fanfare that it didn't get versus what it would have got in the past. When that dude showed up, he was a starter within a matter of weeks. I just can't wait to see him strap it up. I wonder, Mike Norvell doesn't do these spring games to where it's garnet versus gold. It's more of a practice, a glorified practice than anything else. But shoot, they've got 90 something scholarship players. We may have a really fun spring game this year. Hopefully it gets breaking apart and we get to really see some good 11 on 11 this year.
I mean, it should be. I always tell people the positions are won in practice in the spring, so it's not like the scrimmage.
Yeah.
In the other scrimmages that we won't be able to see. Well, I might be able to see them, but y'all won't be able to see them. But it's but go have a good time. I mean, Garnet and Gold game. You know what? Let me do this while I'm on here with you, George. We're going to have this announcement here. What is my thing called? Ticket Tailor. I'm going to set up this Ticket Tailor now because I keep forgetting to do it. But,
let's go.
Y'all check out the Garnet and Gold game. If you can't, I don't want to hear anything about how expensive Tallahassee is. I don't want to hear any of this mess about how I can't afford a game. But you're not just showing up to the ones that are clearly affordable. The Garnet Gold game is
guys. I freaking had no money to my name. I showed up this thing last year to work. I barely got there. I showed up there to work, and I got a hotel for $70. Okay, it wasn't a nice one. It probably wasn't a hotel. It was actually a motel. But this whole thing about you can't get anywhere. You may not be able to get a motel or a hotel 5 minutes from the stadium, but it's affordable. And I'm telling you right now, if you have the opportunity to come to this tailgate that CJ, Chris, and James put on every year for the spring game and on throughout the year, get there. Like, I mean, the money that you pay to get into the tailgate and for your hotel room pales in comparison to the awesome people you get to meet. I mean, you've got a former player in James and a guy like Chris and CJ who have the respect of those guys. They're all good friends with a lot of different people. I've yet to be to a tailgate that P-Dub and Snoop Menace didn't show up to. Like, even guys like Luke's dad and Cam's mom, they've came by on the golf carts, different coaches and stuff. It really is like a family at these things, and you pretty much are going to see just about anybody who's anybody at these Florida State games are. Chances are they're coming through the tailgate, whether it be, people from the 2013 championship team on down to, I got to sit to talk with E.G. Green for like 40 minutes after the Garnet and Gold game. And he was just right out there. It wasn't like I was in some kind of backstage area. We were sitting on the back of James's truck, enjoying a sausage dog, and he was smoking a cigar. We're sitting there talking. So definitely, when he gets this thing ready with Ticket Tailor, if you can afford your tickets, get it. Kids under a certain age are free too, right, James?
Yeah, definitely. We have youth tickets for those over 12. And like you said, they're under 12. Just come on out. It's more of a family reunion style tailgate.
Yes.
It's really just vibes. We try to sell out as many as we can. I'll probably end up taking a bunch of kids to the game because I really want them to enjoy it. Again, I forgot how much the actual tickets are for that, but right now, matter of fact, I'm gonna set this thing up right now. It's $25 for those if you want to come to the spring game tailgate right now. That
is a steal. And Sonya Moore, that's what he just said. It's a spring game, 36 degrees, DenMediaGroup, Spear Addicts, Dope Talk tailgate. It's what, lot 5?
Yeah, it'll be lot 5. Damn, I thought I had that one.
And he's putting the tickets out online right now. It's a ticket Taylor. As they go through, and as soon as he gets that link up when we get done here, I will throw the link in the description of this. It'll be all over the place. We'll make sure y'all can get to it. I'll do a community post, all that good stuff. So we'll definitely make sure.
I've been talking about doing this for a minute. I keep forgetting. But yeah, man, it's something good. But I want people to go check out the different games. And that's what we gotta do. Even when the capacity will be a lot lower than what it's been. But like there's tailgates, there's all kinds of other different things that you could do to engage and have the energy of what you would want to see in a college football game. And I think a lot of times this is where we're not what the heck? That don't make no sense. A lot of times I think we take this thing for granted because of what we have and what we're used to. Adapt. Again, like I just talked about the NCAA, you either got to adapt or die. But there is a way that you could just really truly engage and support the university for what we got going on. And I think spring games and things like that nature are where it's at. Here, I just sent that to you, George.
Facts. James just sent me the link, and I will get that up. I'll get that in the see if I can I might be able to comment it into the comment section really quick. Boom. Yeah, like guys, I'm telling you, even if for whatever reason, like if you're local in Tallahassee and you don't necessarily want to have to go through the game or whatever, you can't even, you can't necessarily go into a certain game to watch because of the reduced capacity. Go to the tailgate and have a blast. A lot of times the seasons, like the games during the season, they'll have a TV set up to where you can just hang out at the parking lot and watch the game. Even if you say you can't afford necessarily to get, tickets, $400 tickets, for like the game when it was in Orlando, et cetera, stuff like that. And like James said, it's a family thing. And as far as vibe checks, they let me in the damn thing last year when I was like bald headed and looking crazy. So y'all are
the biggest thing is it is all you can eat, all you can drink. We do some things like that. It's really just to get people there. We'll see a lot of former players, a lot of other people will be there. This is the cheapest tailgate we have, the cheapest to reflect the cheapest game that we have. So again, what will be really cool is if we started selling out these spring games, as well as selling out the regular season games. That's when like a lot of people are like, why would they do this and why would they change to these benefactor tickets, not benefactor, like these high end. I mean, the reason why is because those guys businesses buy up these things. I will probably buy through Coleman Management and DenMediaGroup. We'll probably buy some packages of stuff. That's what we give away. That's why we give away tickets. The tickets I buy during the regular season aren't technically mine. They're bought by my media company. So that's how we're able to give away tickets on. I think we always do it the Wednesday before that game so that you can do that. If you need hotel accommodations, hit me up. I know exactly. I have hookups at the Sheraton during the regular season and during the spring game, or even just for anything. Like if you want to go, if you got to get there during graduation weekend, we have rates that are way below everybody else's. That's why we try to benefit people, tell them it's a community effort. We have ways of being able to hook people up. And again, it's this is why I like being with George, why I like being with Chris. I have no knock on any other news media outlet, but again, if you really pay attention to not just the information that you're getting from these channels, but if you look at all of the other stuff that we're doing, we're literally trying to encourage you to have a good time and save as many dimes as you can. Everybody else is trying to take stuff from you. We're literally trying to give. So like with somebody's like it's $1,000 per night for a hotel in Tallahassee, that's ridiculous. I said it's $350 if you're a part of DenMediaGroup. So if you paid the damn $3.99,
you better get with James.
You would know that there's a link that you could click that could go get you a hotel. And oh, by the way, that happens to be where the team stays. Also, if you don't want to stay there 2 nights, if you let me know, we'll get you we'll get you one night as opposed to the 2-night minimum. It's strength in numbers, and that's why we got to keep growing this. That's why I shouldn't be seeing. I need to get off of that 666 one because that's a bad number. But again, once we get to 6,000, hell, that damn near pays for 2 of your nights in Tallahassee during the football season. So Hell, you can tell me, James, we'll swap it out. Make sure my hotel is free this weekend. And I'll be like, bet, I got you. But again, those are the things that I think we're doing that makes us all unique.
Facts. You heard the man. The link is in there. I think some people have already gotten their tickets taken care of. So we'll throw that in the description after the show too. We're getting pretty long into this thing. Maybe another 5-10 minutes. We're going to get out of here. We really appreciate everybody joining us. We've still got 100 people in here, over 100 something people. So if you do have a question real quick, you want to answer it before we get off here, now's the time. Call in, speak now, forever hold your peace. When it comes to recruiting, it's not there's not a real crap ton of stuff going on, but I did see a pretty cool interview with Travion Wallace. I've seen a Kobe Howard get kind of friendly with the Florida State Twitter, kind of interacting with people. I've seen like a net of just Florida State offering guys like, Mike Norvell has been out there offering a lot of like linebackers and stuff that we wouldn't have offered in the past couple of years. They've really seems like they've expanded their net. It's kind of like, okay, Willie Taggart's money is off the books. You had this year, all of a sudden, it just seems like Mike Norvell and the staff are dealing with a completely different checkbook than what we've seen the past couple of years. Is there anything on recruiting that's really caught your eyes here the past couple days or week, I guess?
No, just a lot of linebackers are really singing Randy Shannon's praises. It's a lot of Odell's doing pretty decent, at least evaluating some D-line talent. And right now, Florida State, I think we're top 10. I think we're number 7 so far in this class, but really, really early. Just kind of close the door. We're going to probably not take as many wide receivers because we have a really deep room. We're going to keep, so if we miss out on a guy, that means we probably we're going hard after him, but we're being very selective in that class. Same thing especially at wide receiver and safety. Those are 2 positions that we're being very selective at. So, but I think they're going to work hard. And again, the biggest thing is you got to win games. Win the games, and we're good.
Facts. And I think we're going to win a lot. I really, really, really think people are underestimating Florida State and where we're headed. And I think when it comes to recruiting, it's just going to be, it's all about putting in the work. This time last year, everybody was freaking out. Like, we got to get this. We got to get this. We got to have such an amount of high school recruiting or this thing isn't going to work out. Mike's got to do this. Mike's got to do that. We got to June and we saw all these other schools getting commits. Everybody was freaking out. The sky was falling. It was all over. We weren't going to do this. We weren't going to do that. And then July came and we got 10, 12 commitments and on down the road. I think what James said hits on. You win the ball games and all of it will take care of itself. This ACC suit, we're going to find more things out. There's all kinds of fun stuff going on. Again, we've got 2 different former players that we're trying to get scheduled, some really, really cool ones. So stay tuned for that. If we don't have any questions, we're probably going to end this thing, man. We really love you all you guys out there at Noel Nation. Again, pray for Jen. Hopefully she gets better. And she's with us sooner than later, back on the program and healthy as can be. If you ain't got anything else, James, I guess we will call her a day.
All right. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, James. We love you guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode of the Renegade Rundown.
First off, fuck Bama in the roll tide. Fuck Tuscaloosa in every city that's close by. Bitch ass hillbilly redneck fans. Auburn almost caught y'all slacking like dress pants. Michigan trash, they ain't got a damn chance. Only Wolverine I respect is X-Man. Keen ass coach got exposed, still in plays. Damn right I'm bitter, y'all sweeter than lemonade. Texas ain't shit to rave about.